Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be checking out the famous Need for Speed. With over 140 million copies sold, Need for Speed by DreamWorks Studios is based on the most popular racing video game franchise ever. The film portrays the excitement of the game in a real-world environment. Need for Speed taps into what makes the American idea of the open road so alluring, bringing to mind the great car culture movies of the 1960s and 1970s, when authenticity added a new degree of intensity to the action. And without any further hyping, let's get started. Toby Marshall owns and operates a garage in a small village in upstate New York. He creates and upgrades performance vehicles with his mates. They're listening to a radio program hosted by Michael Keaton, who's well known for organizing the largest yearly illegal street racing in the entire globe. Aaron Paul laments the fact that he can't participate since he has a basic street racing team with a computerized mission control, despite the fact that the police haven't been able to stop it. Ramon Rodriguez, one of his friends, believes that they'll soon be proficient enough technicians to create their own elite racing vehicle. Harrison Gilbertson, a different friend, aspires to be a professional race car driver permitted to operate vehicles owned by a professional racing team. He joked that this makes him appear to be all of One Direction simultaneously cloned because he's meant to be a full-time street racer and auto technician. Michael Keaton's DJ Monarch adds that Toby used to be a local racer and raced against his primary competitor, Dino, on a racing web radio show. Dino has now achieved success competing in the Indianapolis 500 and other prestigious racing events. He currently owns a car business. Monarch theorizes that Toby was just as talented as Dino, but Dino was fortunate to succeed in the spotlight. Toby received the garage as a gift from his father, but is currently having financial difficulties. He and his crew street race their vintage muscle vehicles to raise the money needed for the payments. They celebrate their victory at the neighborhood drive-in theater. Arriving in a Mercedes-Benz SLR, McLaren is Dino. Anita, his lover, is with him. She is the sister of Little Pete, a member of Toby's group and the ex-girlfriend of Toby. They have some back and forth. Toby and Dino are quite hostile towards one another. Dino shows up at the garage the following day. He's looking for a business to finish the repairs on the Ford Mustang Carroll Shelby was working on before he passed away. He's aware that Toby's team is the best for situations like this. After the repairs are finished, he plans to sell the vehicle and offers Toby 25% of the anticipated $2 million sales price. The team tries to persuade Toby not to take on the task, but Toby needs the cash. After the repairs are finished, the car is auctioned off at a very fancy party. Toby and Dino meet Julia, who works for a wealthy Brit, as a buyer. She agrees to pay $3 million if Toby is right and the car can go faster than 230 miles per hour. Dino isn't so sure, so he won't let Toby show him that he's wrong. They agree to meet the next morning at the track so Julia can check out the car. Toby and his team get there, and Toby is able to get the car up to 234 miles per hour. The crew thinks that Dino will never be able to drive as fast as Toby. Julia and her buyer agree to pay $2.7 million for the car. Dino feels hurt and takes Toby and Little Pete to his uncle's house. He dares them to race his uncle's 3 European Koenigsegg Agera cars, which were brought into the country illegally. If he wins, Dino's 75% of the Mustang deal goes to Toby. If he loses, he has to give up 25%. From the house, they run to a bridge over the highway. During the race, Little Pete gets in front of Dino, stopping him from getting close to Toby. Dino hits Little Pete's car out of anger and it flips down a ravine, lands on some rocks, and catches on fire. The best shot in the movie is when Toby runs back to help, but it's too late. Dino and his car vanish. Aaron is taken to a police station. He's detained after being accused of reckless driving that resulted in a fatal vehicle accident. So Aaron accused his friend Dominic of causing the collision. Still, the authorities find no evidence to back up this assertion. Just after the accident, the cars Aaron and his companion were driving were reported stolen. Aaron is arrested for manslaughter and sentenced to 3 years in prison despite his protests. After 2 years, Toby gets out of prison on parole and goes straight to work, getting revenge for Little Pete's death. Aaron gets released from prison 3 years later, and Julia gives him a $3 million automobile that her employer finances. Aaron is required to have Julia with him in order to prevent him from trying anything improper. Aaron is eager to get from New York to California in just 2 days, but his careless driving almost puts them both in danger. Julia is furious and orders him to drive carefully. Aaron reveals to Julia that he wants to get revenge on Dominic by defeating him in a race, which, in Aaron's opinion, will demonstrate that Dominic was accountable for the demise of their comrade. Races are common among racers, and Julia points out that they don't always demonstrate anything. However, Aaron is adamant about carrying out his plan and exposing the truth. He and Julia are able to borrow the Shelby Mustang so they can enter a race put on by Monarch where the winner gets everything. The race will start in 2 days somewhere in California, so they have to get there. Aaron's trying to put together a racing team so that he can take part in a high-stakes race. The scene opens in Detroit. He then goes to Rami Malek, a former co-worker who quit his job to build his $3 million car, but he's angry that his skills aren't marketable. Then Aaron decides to make trouble for some police officers in order to start a race, which confuses Julia. She says that the race's organizer, Michael Keaton, already wants Aaron to be in it and loves his car. Still, Aaron decides to drive in a crazy way that almost kills everyone, much to Julia's surprise. The other people in the car try to scare Julia out of the car by driving erratically, but she's not scared. One of the crew, Benny, call me Maverick, follows them across the country in a Cessna as a spotter. After getting away from the Detroit police in a spectacular way, all the state police are told that Toby, who has broken his parole, is in a silver Mustang headed west. Monarch talks about this on his web radio show and invites Toby to join the race. His goal is San Francisco. Dino, who now lives in San Francisco, calls a radio show and says that anyone who stops Toby from getting to the race can have his Lamborghini. Michael Keaton, who's keeping an eye on the situation, says how crazy it is. After getting in trouble with the police at a gas station, the Mustang is challenged by 2 4x4s in Utah who want Dino's reward. Julia's driving. At first, she confronts the attackers and scares Toby by driving straight at the Hummer, betting that his big car will make up for the driver's lack of courage. But they have to get off the road. Maverick shows up in an Apache Army helicopter just as they're about to get caught. They get a rope through the car, and he carries them over a canyon where the rest of the crew is waiting at the Bonneville Salt Flats. The military police catch Maverick, but he's already saved the day. They just make it to San Francisco in time to sign up. Dino is scared of Toby, but the two of them agree to work things out during the race. Julia and Toby are on their way to a hotel when they're hit by a truck driven by one of Dino's employees. Julia is taken to the hospital after the car is totaled. Little Pete's death won't be avenged until Toby can find a car. Anita has learned about Dino's trick, so she looks through his computer and finds out that the Koenigsegg that killed her brother is being hidden in a warehouse nearby. She meets up with Toby and tells him where it is. She also gives him the engagement ring that Dino gave her. The next morning, there are 5 fancy cars ready to start the race. Toby comes in last. When Dino sees Toby in the car, he gets scared. When Toby gives Dino Anita's ring, he gets even more scared. They're running away, and the California Highway Patrol is right behind them. Most of the crashes happen because the Chips are trying to stop the race. Dino and Toby are the only ones left, so they race along the Pacific Highway side by side. Dino messes up when he tries to tag Toby as the game is coming to a close. As the car starts to burn, he crashes and rolls it. Toby can see the finish line but turns around to help Dino out of the fire. He runs away just as the Chips get there. They follow him to the finish line and stop him from going any further. He and Dino are put in jail. Dino is sent to jail for Little Pete's death after the missing Koenigsegg is found. Toby gets out of jail after 6 months for racing on the street. Julia drives him to the jail in a new 2015 Mustang prototype. During the end credits, Maverick shows the other prisoners how to twerk. The movie's a satire of the usual things in action movies, especially those with high-speed chases and street racing. It makes fun of the conventions and tropes of the genre by using over-the-top and silly situations. Overall, Need for Speed is a fun movie with exciting car chases and action that lives up to its promise. But the plot and character development aren't very good, making it a forgettable addition to the genre. Fans of the video game series, or people who want a mindless action movie will probably like it, but people who want a more thought-provoking movie may be let down.